Good evening, everyone. Today we are celebrating 87 Sunday Sahityak Satsang, and I would invite Dr. Somali Saha, event coordinator of this month and Vice President of Tripura iSPELL Forum. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Pramod sir. Good evening, everyone. Respected resource person, chairperson, master of ceremonies of today's event, respected founder, director, and general secretary of iSPELL India, respected president of iSPELL India, vice presidents, IT coordinator, EC members, members from different forums of the country, and the participants who are joining us through Zoom platform and YouTube live stream. A hearty welcome to you all in the 87th Sunday Sahityak Satsang organized by iSPELL India. Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature, popularly known as iSPELL, works with the motto, facilitate to elevate, and organizes Sunday Sahityak Satsangs every Sunday to share and impart expertise of renowned academicians. Under the leadership of Professor G. Hisham, founder, director, and general secretary of iSPELL India, this people's platform is stretching its wings to various parts of the country. Since its inception on 5th September 2020, iSPELL keeps on organizing workshops, seminars, LTPs, conferences, and has signed MOUs with esteemed institutions. iSPELL dedicates the month of May, Partition Memories through History and Literature. This is the theme of the month of May. The theme is decided to delve deeper into the inner recesses of partitioned minds and memories. In the context of Indian subcontinent, revisiting partition becomes a cultural obligation, as it involves questions concerning the birth of nations and national identities. As an event, partition still remains a visible trace in the national imaginary, shaping our collective consciousness. On the 75th anniversary of the partition, iSPELL is bringing for you a plethora of lectures to commemorate the event, reliving the partitioned mind and memories handed down to us through history and literature. To offer many vantage points to the same event and to understand the varied nuances of the story as it unfolded for different lives and different nations, iSPELL is inviting learned academicians from the other side of the border. Today's resource person, Dr. Sayeed Ferdous, Professor of Anthropology from Jahannagar University, Bangladesh, will speak on Legacies of 1947, Divided Bengals and Partitioned Minds. Today, we are delighted to have amongst us Srimati Mushmi Basfor, Assistant Professor of Government Degree College, Teliamura, Tripura, as the Master of Ceremonies, who will take charge of all the ceremonials of today's event. Madam has completed her Masters in English from Assam University, Silchar. Currently, she is pursuing her PhD on Hindu mythology from Tripura University. She has conducted a number of seminars and national webinars. She has presented her research papers in various national and international seminars, and her research articles are also published in prominent journals of national and international repute. Now the session is over to Srimati Mushmi Basfor. Ma'am, please start. Yes, Mushmi ma'am, it's over to you.
Much, Somali madam, for giving such a nice.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are audible. Please continue.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Hello.
Your voice is breaking, ma'am.
You are audible.
Hello.
Yes, now audible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Somali ma'am, for. And today I am very delighted and very the opportunity has been given to me for seminar. It is a talk. It is the 87th. The topic is Legacies of 1947, Divided Bengal. And we are extremely fortunate that today we all of going to have among us. We have among us Dr. Sayeed Firdaus, Jahangir University, Bangladesh. Sir Firdaus has been teaching anthropology at Jahangir 25 after he graduated from there. He has also completed Amsterdam, Netherlands, and PhD in history from Lancaster University. His areas of interest include historiography, memory, post-colonial nation, nation-state, and nationalism. He has published, among which I would like to mention Partition as border making, East Bengal, East. In recent years, he has undertaken research projects as part in number of anthologies and journals. Sir, over to you, sir.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We can hear you, sir.
Unfortunately, the internet connection is not very good today. And I'm apology from my side for that, although I have nothing to do about that. What I can do the best is to turn off the video so it would give a better quality of audio transmission, I guess, if you allow me to do so. May I? May I turn off the video?
Now everything is okay, sir. We can hear you.
Okay.
We can see.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. If there is interruption, please remind me. Please let me know,
Sure.
and I will take the necessary thing. Yeah. So thank you, iSPELL. Thank you very much for offering me the platform. And this is always a rewarding experience to share research ideas with others in the field and in the relevant fields. So I'm very happy that I get this opportunity today to share some of my thoughts, some of which are spelled out in my previous research, but others still may read teasing out or unfolding the coming researches. So what I would like to talk today is about the legacies of minds from two Bengals, and particularly East Bengal. So I will draw from the experiences from this side, but at the same time, I will also talk about the exchanges or how East Bengal and West Bengal and people form their identity, or people see themselves and see the other or living on the other side of the border, living on the other side of the red cliff line. I will talk about that as well. But before that, I want to make 2 points before the lecture actually begins. So, number one is what I like to assert in any discussion about the past, in any discussion about history, that past is not past per se. Past is has got currency in a particular present. So we draw upon a particular past. We bring out a particular past, standing on a particular present. So past has relevance and currency in present day. So that is important. And when I talk about the divided mind, when I think about the divided mind from two Bengals, this fact about history, that past is not past, but past has relevance in present, that reminds me once again, when I can see that even today, how the intelligentsia, how the academia, how the people involved in creative, in the fields of creative arts and performances, like how people from East Bengal look into the people in West Bengal, how West Bengal people appreciate or look or sometimes look down like East Bengal. So this is interesting. So to look into the relationship in the present day, I can see it has threads from the past. So that is how I will try to unearth the relationship of past and the present, and particularly in reference to these divided minds in two Bengals. That is one thing. Whenever we talk about the Bengal episode of Partition, we all know, and this is pretty much familiar, I'm sure, with every one of you, that whenever we talk about the Bengal Partition of 1947, a tone of nostalgia takes over everything. A tone of nostalgia, a tone of sameness and unity, a tone of like amity, fraternity among the divided Bengals, and shared historical past of the divided Bengals often comes up as not much as intellectual venture, but more importantly comes up as rhetoric. So, but on the other hand, we all know that history shapes different people differently. And when border making had taken place, when state had been, like new state had been created following the partition, following the segregation, that must have consequences on the people living on the divided territories. So how come when we talk about the nostalgia, I know, I understand that nostalgia has significance, relevance, and nostalgia has very emotive value at a very personal level, at a very private level, in the family stories. Nostalgia has significance. But at the same time, when we are talking about state making, border, if nostalgia takes over this part as well, then we sometimes may have to think over the issue, because historical trajectories are different on the two Bengals following the partition, and that must have impact on their identities, how they look into themselves, how they look into the others. So that must have impacted people's attitude toward each other, or people's understanding of the self. So in that case, the prime focus of my paper today, or prime focus of my discussion today, is we have to go beyond. We have to go beyond the rhetorics, and we have rhetorics of sameness and unity. We have to go beyond the claim of nostalgia, which is there, which is true at a personal level, at a family level, it's there. But at the level of polity, geopolitics, state making, it has got different different elements that we also should have to take into account. So, what, in my opinion, like, I'm not against the nostalgia. I started my book with my father's story that he was a from the northern part of Bangladesh, northern district of Bangladesh, but his childhood was spent in Malda, and he had his school and 11 and 12 class in Malda, and then he come to Dhaka University for education. And when I talk about partition, when I started my research, it started with a nostalgia, and it started with a personal story. But then, looking into the nostalgia only often sometimes limits our understanding of the complex scenario. So, what I want to say, that nostalgia, when we write about past and history, if nostalgia takes over that often fits with the statist nationalist version of India, which I developed in my research, which I mentioned in my research as Indo-centric. This was not my original coinage. It was first used by Anana Jahanra Kabir in her book of Post-Amnesia about the partition of 1947. So Kabir actually used this term Indo-centric, and in my partition research book, I actually emphasize that how the entire partition studies still has been residing within an Indo-centric framework. And I am saying in this particular case, when we talk about Bengal, and whenever we start talking about Bengal partition, whenever nostalgia takes over the intelligentsia, our academic analysis, or nostalgia takes over our research, the problem is it fits with the statist, one kind of statist nationalist interpretation of history that fits with Indian nationalism, Indian nationalist historiography. And it also fits with a certain section of Bangladeshi approach toward history. It's the secular progressive understanding of the Bengali identity, who actually thinks that, who actually often echoes with this Indo-centric attitude that Pakistan was the only evil, Muslim League was the bad guys, and everything else was fine. We were fine, like Bengalis were, even before partition, Bengalis were at the same plane. And after partition, we still have this longing. So we have this fraternity, we have this heartfelt bonding with each other across the boundaries, even after the line had dissected us. Even after that, we still have this relationship with each other, but it was only the Pakistan and it was only the Muslim League. So my point is, such kind of evocation of sameness, or such kind of overarching claim of amity or fraternity or brotherhood often put a gloss on complex areas of understanding. Number one, I actually have identified 3 areas of understanding which actually get disregarded by such claim of nostalgia and such claim of sameness or amity. That is, that disregards at least 3 significant facts. Number one, partition, and as well as border making followed by it, was a process that was politically charged, and it was materialized through active bargaining and negotiations of the Indian political actors. When I'm saying India here, I'm particularly mentioning undivided India. So India, Pakistan, Bengal, Punjab, I'm talking about in general. So it was a process of active bargaining and negotiation between the Indian politicians and the British and different kinds of Indian politicians. And most importantly, it should be noted that Bengal politicians was also part of this bargain and negotiations. Only few were the unionists, labeled as the unionists. Only few who struggled, who fought for till the last moment, who fought for the undivided Bengal. But apart from that, in Bengal polity, there was this, in Bengal, among the Bengal political leaders, prominent leaders also went for the decision of partitioning Bengal. So if we forget it today, and if we say that Bengal was not for partition, and we are all like, it was something was put on, like it was ascribed upon us, or it was forced upon us, that will not be totally true. Like we also had, some of us also had active part in this bargaining and negotiation process that actually divided the Bengal, number one. Number two, partition has created a cartographic reality in the regional geopolitics. India has appeared to be the mighty state, the big nation state in the region, and around India, like surrounding India, like Bangladesh, like there are small neighboring states, and these has consequences even till date. Like there are contentious issues of border, there are contentious issues of river, and that has affected the relationship between India and its neighbors. Sometimes bilateral relationship, sometimes multilateral relationship. It has affected the economy, it has affected the politics, it has affected the social life in all these cartographic territories, in all these small or big nation states in South Asia. They all have these impacts of this geopolitical transformation that partition had compelled us to accept or compel us to comply. And finally, I understand that at this reconfigured reality, state and nation, I can see that state and nation has taken over almost all the aspects of life, including ethnicity, or it can be ethnicity, it can be even family. Like the broken families are living on both sides of the border. Even some families are living in 3 different countries, in 3 different nation states. So it has got, this reconfigured reality has impact on family life. It has impact on this idea of Bengaliness. We can feel like if somebody from Bangladesh thinks that KKR is something I can feel affinity with because the name Calcutta is there, he must be not actually very correct. So there is these issues like this idea of Bengaliness had been affected after the formation of this new nation state and after the partition had taken place. Now, when we evoke these emotions of nostalgia and sameness and unity and amity, we may often forget these complicated and bitter parts of the reality. We can forget about this harshness, a harsh and unalterable reality. So this is important. We have to keep in mind that not everything was sweet, and not only the other bad others like the Pakistan or the bad others like the Muslim League had ruined our nice garden. It's not the whole truth. The whole truth is we also had taken share in this bitter process of negotiation and bargaining, and this bitterness and harshness that become unalterable. We should take into account that. And if we understand that this is unalterable, then the question is how then we can evolve. At a personal level, we can evolve that okay, my house was at that part, and there was this big river next to our house, and there is this long tree, a long coconut tree next to our house. You can say that these emotions are important at a very personal level, but think about that national and state level when we talk about and how that has impact on our identities. At that point, reality is unalterable, and living on that unalterable reality, how far nostalgia would help us, how far this celebration of Bengali, undivided Bengali fraternity or unity of the Bengaliness, how far that will help us to understand the process of history. So I would say, without acknowledging and by bringing forth, these harsh and unalterable scenarios in conversations, in our analysis, in our research, without making strong academic critique of them, will only allow us to the evocation of nostalgia and reproducing the rhetoric of harmony, and that would, in my understanding, reiteration or reproduction of this rhetoric and this uncritical celebration of this harmony would be an epistemological and ontological crime. It would ontologically and epistemologically malign to celebrate uncritically the unity or amity of Bengaliness if we don't look into the larger critical context. Therefore, in this write-up, I will try to transcend the assumed unity of Bengals, unsettling and unearthing them. Not that I'm against the unity, or not that I'm against the fraternity. At a very personal level, I have good friends on the other side of the border. My family story has got elements there on the other side of the border. At a personal level, many of my friends and their families are divided on both sides of the border. So I'm not against of the celebration of the nostalgia at a personal level. But when we talk about the state, nation state, nationalism and politics and these things, we have to go further. We have to move beyond, and otherwise it would paralyze us, our understanding. It would paralyze our academic endeavor. So for me, it is important to look into how Bengals on both sides of the red cliff line treat each other, and most importantly, how they find themselves. I would ask whether there exist any long-standing cliques currently. Till date, like it was, we can say that before partition, we all were happy. But then there are points that historians and political scientists have argued that there are reasons that Muslim League were able to use as their instrument that and evoke the assertion of the Muslim identity at a particular point, because there is this clear line of class and economy between two Bengals. So there is this issue as well. So I would ask whether there exist in long-standing cliques currently that are historically informed by the 1947 partition, or even by the pre-partition era. Not only in 47, I would also say that even before 47, there were these issues of differences between two Bengals. So to cut the whole thing, to summarize the whole thing that I have said so far, is basically whenever we look into the partition studies, we celebrate the nostalgia, we celebrate the unity of the Bengaliness, we celebrate of the undivided, we celebrate the nostalgia of the undivided Bengal. But for the academic understanding, or for the proper understanding of the proper courses of history, we really have to look into the differences between the two Bengals, and we not only the sweet memories, but the bitter realities from today. We also should look into that. That is my first point that I wanted to make. Now, what I wanted to say that as Kaul has discussed in his book about the partition of memories. So I said about the partition of minds, and this is not something unique I have said. It has been used in literatures previously as well, even in popular writings as well. So partition or cartographic divides as an instance of state and nation making also takes place into people's mind. The way the people categorize themselves and categorize the other, the way they remember the past and retrieve a particular past, remember selective past and retrieve the selective past in a selective present, and then the way they reconfigure sameness and differences till death. So this is interesting, and the way people in both Bengals act accordingly in mundane everyday as well as in extraordinary moments. There were even official moments like Tagore's anniversary, and both the Bengals are celebrating at a very official level, or so there is this kind of even extraordinary moments when the Bengaliness we also assert it at a very official and state level. So there is this whole issues there are. But before entering further analysis, I would like to draw some examples about the exchanges between West Bengal and East Bengal selves, like how people from both the Bengal actually exchange with each other. I know that many of you are familiar with this reality laughter show in Zee Bangla, The Miracle. So in one of the episodes, one of the Bangladeshi guys, one of the guys from Bangladesh, he was doing very well in Miracle, and he was at the center of the attention. And if you see to the YouTube post of his performances, there is this, the comment box is flooded by the enthusiastic or excited Bangladeshi audiences, like, oh, go ahead, Mr. X, go ahead, you're the best, the Bangladeshis are the best, and this and that. So they were doing it over and over again, and some people were even like saying condescending things to particular participants, particular other participants, particular Indian participants. Some were talking about that judges were not fair in this particular episode to the Bangladeshi guy. So these things were taking place, and they were saying all those sorts of things, that Bangladesh is the best and that. So then there was this response. There were West Bengal, some of the West Bengal, some from the West Bengal audiences get entangled into this hyper-real battleground, and they started responding to the how people, Bangladeshi audiences were putting remarks or comments there. They were responding to that. And it went that far that at some episode, I can remember that Mir Afsar, the presenter, he actually addressed this fight in the YouTube, and he took it, and his note were pretty serious that, okay, we understand that this is your boy and he is doing great and we are all proud of him. But think over that, have you in your country been able to create such a platform, such a program for him? So this is this platform that has created this performance. So this was interesting, like the fight was going in YouTube, and then it come to the channel, it come to the live program, and eminent host and he actually addressing it. So these kind of exchanges and awkward exchanges, or at some point not necessarily sweet but bittersweet and bitter, at some point very bitter experiences takes place between and if we go in any of that. Even yesterday I was listening to some of them, one of the performances of a young talented Bangladeshi artist. Was covering Lata Mangeshkar's song Na Jeo Na Rajoni Ekhono Baki. So that was a fantastic song, and she actually performed very well. So there was this appreciation from other side of the border, appreciation from the West Bengal, and they were saying that with everything that you did great and that and saying this from Calcutta, I never heard like such a rendition, such a performance apart from Nadaji. So this is interesting that with all this appreciation, it is important to know that I am from Calcutta. So these divisions, this border making has take place in our minds as well. Like we have to identify that this is from this side, this is from that side, and sometimes in a sweet mood, sometimes in a good mood, sometimes in a very bitter tongue. People actually evoke this otherness. Sometimes people promote this otherness, even they were not aware of that they are promoting the otherness. Even they were not aware that they are remaking or reasserting the partition otherness of themselves and the other. So this is interesting. And a few years ago, one of the Bangladeshi blogger has written a critical piece on Vidyasagar. And I understand that many would find that the piece didn't do a proper justice to Vidyasagar. The claim was that people say that Vidyasagar was liberal and he was very progressive of his time, which is most would agree. But that guy was saying that Vidyasagar couldn't accommodate the people who are who were not like people from scheduled caste to the college. So it was interesting that Vidyasagar was, you can say that the guy was arguing that you can say Vidyasagar was progressive and this and that, but he was progressive up to that extent that he couldn't open the college gate or classroom for the scheduled caste. So that was his point. We can argue against that. We can argue for that. Like, of course, we have to bring into account the context at the time and when Vidyasagar was leaving. So this is not. This will not be fair to judge Vidyasagar living at the current scenario or in the current Bangladesh or in current Calcutta. Living in this period, it's not very easy to make an assessment or sweeping comment on Vidyasagar. But that is not my point. The point is the readers had reactions before and for and against this piece. And one of the comment was pretty interesting that the guy said that I would like to read out the comment. বাঙালি হিন্দুর রক্তের বিনিময়ে ফাঁকতালে একটা গোটা দেশ পেয়ে বাংলাদেশের সম্মানীয় মুসলমানগণ দেখছি ধরাকে সরা জ্ঞান করছে। So this is interesting, like such a this, all these elements of partition. The comment has got 71 had been portrayed as Bangali Hindu doctor. So definitely Bangali Hindu had to sacrifice. Bangali Hindu's life had been at stake. Bangali Muslims' life had been at stake during 71 war. So, but particularly mentioning Bangali Hindu doctor Illinois, Bangali Muslim had been awarded by an entire state, and now they are disregarding everything. So this, when I read this kind of exchanges, when I find such kind of exchanges, I can see that there is this discomfort, there is this bitterness, there is this bitter relationship between the partition self and the partition other. It's existing. So my point is that even in Bangladesh, often it happens that those who publish little mags, who write like literary pieces, or who works the literary like realm, they often have this complaint like, we usually read the West Bengal fiction writers from the West Bengal. We read the poetry from the West Bengal. How many from West Bengal actually have read our poets, and how many of West Bengal have read our fiction writers? So it's interesting. Now, whether this has got elements of truth or not, that is another thing. But the question itself, raising this question itself, says that there is some kind of awkwardness, like there is this feeling that we read their pieces, we look into their work, we appreciate their work, but they don't give us this appreciation. Now, is this mere reflection of superiority and inferiority complex? If like our childhood memories are full of like my father or my mother, their generation was they were fond of like Jeremiah Mitro. Our childhood was like our sense of romanticism when we were growing up was shaped by Manna De or Hemanto or like that. And later when we like at this age, I like to listen like Shumon Chatterjee or Anjan Datto. The thing is, many from the East Bengal, many from Bangladesh, today's Bangladesh would say, well, we know their work. We are familiar with their music. We are familiar with their writing. How come they are not that much? Now, this is debatable. Who knows that how far actually West Bengal people listen to Bangladeshi music or not? How far we know that they didn't read our creative writings? How come we know that? But at the same time, the asking this question, is it a reflection of inferiority of the East Bengal people or Bangladeshi people, who can see that West Bengal people were far ahead in these fields and were far accomplished in this field for many years? Is this comes from this kind of awkwardness? Then there is all this caricature from East Bengal, like East Bengal considered that there is this dadagiri from the West Bengal people, like West Bengal intelligentsia, West Bengal academia, they look down to the East Bengal people. This is our Bangladeshi people, like often paternalistic patting, oh, you're doing great, or not a proper engagement, or often it's like, oh, this is a great idea, but I hope you will be able to do that. Like there are this kind of feelings. So why would East Bengal people find that West Bengal people are like dadas? Like why this caricature? Where from this caricature comes about? And this caricature, like about the hospitality in West Bengal, there is this common saying in East Bengal. This is like, if anybody say anywhere, everyone in Bangladesh can be able to connect. Like, দাদা কি গিয়ে এসছেন, দাদা কি খেয়ে এসছেন নাকি গিয়ে খাবেন? So this portrays as an instance of the hospitality of the West Bengal, which is very condescending, that West Bengal people are not honest, hospitable person. Like they often say that whether you have taken food already or you will take it afterward, after you leaving my place. So this is the way, like, and I often think whether this kind of caricatures has got any historical connections, have got any relevance in the understanding of history. Is it informed by the historical trajectories? Now, but these are, sorry if already this sounds very harsh, these examples, but this is not my intention. My main point is like what I can see from these like scones, so that I can see from these caricatures, what I can see from these teas and exchanges, I can see that there is this partition mind existing on both sides of the border. That I can see. And but there are benign, there are harmless examples as well, like at least apparently harmless. As Subir Kal says about any cricket match after partition, any cricket match between India and Pakistan, emotional battle. So it's same, like particularly in for Bangladesh, it's the cricket match issue is more about among Bangladesh and Pakistan. So yeah, we know when state making takes place, when border making takes place, that necessarily has should have impact on people's mind and people's understanding and people's attitude toward the partition others, or toward the other living on the other side of the border. So it's interesting. But then there are this routinized nationalism in our everyday practice that may appear as benign. Like if you look into the three old football clubs from Calcutta, look into their names: Calcutta Mohammedan, Mohun Bagan, and East Bengal. The name itself is the embodiment of partition, and they have been created following the trajectories of partition. So it's interesting, like the way we understand. So it's there. After many years, we don't feel to change the names, and this idea of Ghoti and Bangal, and Ghoti Bangal, and people also add this third term Bati. It's already there. It's there. These are benign. We think these are very normal, but you can see that there are social currencies of these terms. And I also would love to share this story that I also shared in my book. One of my friend, he was doing PhD in Calcutta, and he was staying. He was a teacher from one of the universities from Bangladesh, and he, with his young child, and his wife, were rented a house at Calcutta, and the landowner of that house, the Bodhi and the Dada, they were like really very cordial to this Bangladeshi family. And often they keep saying, and the Bodhi often keeps saying to the guy, the PhD student there, you know, I know we never feel like that you're not Bengali. Like, what is that? Like when the guy first heard that, he was shocked, like, because all through his life, living in Bangladesh, growing up in Bangladesh, he thought that he's Bengali. And now when he was staying in West Bengal, some Bengali from West Bengal, the Bodhi, who's very, at a personal level, who is very cordial to the tenant, she was saying that we never feel that you are not Bengali. So the category Bengali is exclusive than Musalman in Calcutta. It wasn't, at least at that time. So this is interesting to understand that these benign, you can think of these benign categorizations are also there. This has been there, and it's still working. Like partition had taken place in 1947, 75 years had been passed, and still after that, our minds are partitioned, and the categories we use have got elements of partition into that. They have been shaped by the events of partition, and we still are carrying the legacies of partition till date. Now, In the third section of my discussion, in the third section of my presentation today, I would say that these exchanges between East Bengal and West Bengal, this sharing between two Bengals, this bitterness, this awkwardness, this evocation of the other, this promotion of the self against the other, or shaping the self against the other, looking down to the others, or claiming the superiority of the self, this necessarily have got a relationship with the state and border making, with the events of partition. But then, but then I also want to say that far from being recent and contemporary, such divisive practices have been there since decade before. The difference between two Bengals, and hence between two Bengalis, has its roots in pre-partition Bengals. There were these elements of class, education, and social orientations. Like in my other research, when I was interviewing the partition migrants from West Bengal, like the Bengali Muslims, Bengali-speaking Muslims who came from Calcutta or Hooghly or Murshidabad, who came to Dhaka or in other parts of Bangladesh, and I was interviewing them. And they were saying about how East Bengal has often been perceived as coarse or raw or uncultured, comparing comparing to the cultured city dwellers, educated, like tasteful Caucasians. So it's interesting, like people in West Bengal had better exposure to education. There was this salaried class, and there is this economic betterment than the East Bengal. And in East Bengal, there is this, what I used to say, please excuse my word, it is the Habhate Krishak, Habhate rural peasantry, this huge poor peasantry. They barely survived from hand to mouth. And they were not very cultured. They cannot pronounce the Bangla properly, like so, this and that. So, and when there is before and after partition, like there is this matrimonial issues of matrimonial exchanges, like there is this reservation. There was no caste-like segregation, but there is this preferences. Oh, we're not gonna marry to that part. Oh, we're not gonna, like there is this adjacent districts of Bangladesh, like the borderline districts of Bangladesh. They have some kind of affinity or connections, and they still can be regarded as, okay, they have elements of Bengaliness, like West Bengal or Kolkata, but the Southern Bengal, the Eastern Bengal, oh, they are not really Bengali. Like, so these Chittagong, Sylhet, these parts are like, there are parts of lower southern part, like they were not proper Bengalis. Often they do not perceive it. So there is this issues like, they had been people in Calcutta, they had been exposed to better education. People in West, I'm not talking about Calcutta only. People in West Bengal, there was this issue of transformation had taken place years ago than East Bengal, and they have been exposed with good education institutions. They had been exposed to city life, and when the partition had taken place, some partition migrants was telling to me that in comparison to Kolkata, Dhaka was a big ground. There was nothing in Dhaka, like the posh, the later developed posh areas of Dhaka, like Dhanmondi. Dhanmondi was completely a village, a rural area, like the rural, what should I say, rural, local arrangement of panchayati kind of thing, that you call panchayat in India, that kind of thing of like in our village, there was this term matbor, matokbor, that kind of thing. So they were like this local matbor were there. So Dhanmondi was no city. Dhaka was not even a grown-up city. It was just started to growing up at that time. So there is this comparison that comparing to West Bengal, East Bengal had nothing to be proud of at that point. And then there was this, I can remember another program of, there was this channel previously in West Bengal named Ekushe Television, and they have this program, reality game show. It was like family game show. The name of the program was Borishaler Bor Kolkatar Kone. The name itself says a lot. Borishal is, they cannot speak a proper Bangla. They have said Bangal Bhasha, as you say it in Calcutta, Bangal Bhasha. And that's interesting, the way we can see the caricature of Bangal Bhasha portraying the East Bengal. In East Bengal, there is no one Bangal Bhasha. There are multiple dialects from different districts. So when you say Bangal Bhasha and you create something caricature, and that is, you actually stereotype East Bengal into that particular vocabulary. So there is this Bangal Bhasha when you say that Borishaler Bor, they will speak Bangal. They cannot speak Bangla. They will not be refined. They will not be educated. And Kolkata Kone is on the other side, is completely the opposite. So these kinds of elements were there, like and they came from, historically they came from, as like when Taj Hashmi says about he wrote his famous book named Pakistan, A Peasant Utopia, and he was explaining the rise of Muslim League in East Bengal rural areas, and he identified that Muslim League was able to sell this idea that all the Hindu bhadraloks, all the Hindu landlords are exploiting the Muslim peasants. They were actually exploiting their co-religious peasants as well. But Muslim League highlighted that Muslim peasants are poor because they were exploited by the Hindu zamindars. And most of the zamindars and the landlords were Hindu. That is true. So there is this class line. And then Taj Hashmi identified that there was this communalization of class politics by the Muslim League. And Muslim League successfully did that. They communalized the class identity. So there is this class difference, this economic difference, followed by the difference of taste, upbringing, lifestyle. There is a difference between two Bengals. And that had been there even before the partition. And then, apart from class, education, taste, apart from lifestyle, there is another element. There is this issue of religion. So Nilesh Bose, he wrote a fascinating piece named Pakistan Jindabad. And he said that Purva Pakistan, in East Pakistan, when they were after the Lahore resolution, since the beginning of the 40s, there were these East Bengali Muslim intelligentsia, East Bengali Muslim editors, writers, and publishers. They were trying to shape a new East Pakistani identities that will be Bengali at the same time, that will draw upon the nature, the landscape of Bengal, that will also draw upon the Islamic tradition. So there is this interesting discussion about Bankim Chandra's Durgesh Nandini, and there is this, I don't know whether you are familiar with the name Ismail Hasan Shirazi, literary persona from East Bengal. He actually responded that in Durgesh Nandini there is this element of religion. So he actually tried to reverse that religion game, that the Muslim boy married the Hindu girl, or so. He actually wrote this novel named Rai Nandini. This may sound silly, like Durgesh Nandini is a classic, and Ismail Hasan Shirazi can be a big name in the Muslim literary circle, but he was not comparable to Bankim Chandra's talent and creation. But his response, how do we understand that response? That response comes from politics of self-assertion. So even before partition, and many years, like Rafiuddin Ahmed says, that Muslims in India and Muslims in Bengal as well, like they often claim that they have to distance from the Hindu traditions of India, and they try to find affinity with Middle Eastern Islamic tradition. They prefer Urdu and Farsi, like Persian, Arabic, and Urdu over Bangla. So many of the Ashraf, many of the upper class Muslim families in undivided Bengal, they were Urdu speaking, or they were non-Bengali speaking, or they prefer not to speak Bangla. So there were these elements, there was this cliques along the line of religion has been there. And then Bosch also noted, and there is this reason for this Muslim intelligentsia, because they can see that whenever tradition had been crafted, in that history, hardly there were any name of the Muslim literary person. So these Muslim intelligentsia, since the beginning of the 40s, they started to rethink, to critically engage with this history of the Bengali literary tradition. They cannot find their name in the Calcutta-centric understanding, the Calcutta-centric reading of the Bengali literary tradition do not accommodate the Muslim intelligentsia much, or Muslim literary persona, or their works do not accommodate or provide them enough space. And that triggered the Bengali Muslim intelligentsia to assert, to distance from the Calcutta-centric Bengaliness. They try to assert a Bengaliness that will be unique because it will also claim up the Islamic self. So this is this can be imagined as the emergence or the emerging moment of Bengali Muslim identity. They were playing with the two hyphenated part. They were trying to assert their Muslimness, Islamic tradition. They were trying to assert their Bengali tradition. So you will find the poets like Farooq Ahmed. You will find the poet like Nazrul Islam, who actually had coined words and metaphors and stories or elements from Islamic traditions. Nazrul Islam was definitely an exception because he also wrote a huge good amount of scientists. So even long before partition, there is this element within the society that Bengalis, some of the Bengalis, they were trying to disassociate from the West Bengal, Calcutta-centric West Bengal tradition and try to assert a Bengaliness in connecting it with their Islamic tradition as well. And that was asserted at the beginning, since the beginning of the 40s, when there was this idea of like Lahore resolution had taken place in 1940. So when that had taken place, these literary persona from East Bengal, they were trying to assert Bengaliness, which is different from West Bengal. They were trying to assert a Pakistaniness, East Pakistaniness, that will be necessarily different from West Pakistan. So they don't want to be West Pakistani. They don't want to be Pakistani, but they want to be particularly East Pakistani. And by East Pakistani, they were referring to the Bengal, East Bengal particularly. The name was still then, the name was East Bengal. And then at the same time, they were referring to the Bengaliness, but that would be different from the West Bengal Bengaliness. So that is what I can see, like, whenever we talk about these things, we really have to think, we really have to consider that assertion of nostalgia, assertion of sameness or unity of Bengali can be interesting, can be sweet, but sometimes in the understanding of history, in the understanding of the like historical trajectories, how two Bengals become different following the partition, we really have to look into the differences of the two Bengals. And if we do that, like there is this few years ago, one of my someone from our generation, he actually published a book named Purbo Banglar Bhasha. So this was interesting. A Bangla, which is not Calcasian Bangla, and that has to be Purbo Banglar Bhasha. How do we understand that? How do we understand that apparently that looks like inferiority? Like why West Bengal people, why West Bengal audience do not look into our musicians? Why they are not keen about our literary works? This inferiority. Is this a mere inferiority, or is this a claim, or is this a kind of desire to uphold our differences, our otherness, our, when I'm saying our, I'm saying is Bengali or Bangladeshis otherness and differences with the West Bengal. So reflection in the competing arena of like when we look into these differences between West Bengal and East Bengal is necessarily not a monolithic kind of thing. Like not everyone is in East Bengal thinks in one way. Definitely, I'm not saying that, and definitely I'm not saying that everyone in West Bengal thinks in that way. But even in the Bangladeshi nationalist politics, there is this different camps that speak to certain point. Some of the political parties look into the 47 and identities related to 47. Some of the political parties in Bangladesh look into the identities related to 1971. So this is interesting. Like there is this claim in South Asia that partition was a project that had miserably failed. Yes, of course, you can see that partition had failed, but I can also see that partition succeeded. Look at the secular claim of India. Look at the Indian politics today. Look at the entire political scenario of South Asia. Partition actually had succeeded to divide us, to like make us unalterably other to each other, like unalterably other than someone living on the other side of the border. So partition is not a failed project. Partition succeeded to partition succeeded to evoke these separations or this disintegration and splits of identity. Right. And finally, what I would say, there is this political slogan. There's this political slogan often popular at some point in Bangladesh when they say is that we have denied Pindi not to accept the slavery of Delhi. So, Pindir গোলামি পিন্ডির শিকল ছেঁড়ার অর্থ এই নয় যে আমরা দিল্লির গোলামি করব। এই ধরনের একটা স্লোগান একসময় ঢাকাতে ভীষণ পপুলার হয়ে উঠেছে। So this has got these elements that from East Bengal side, from Bangladesh, there is this constant desire to be different than the West Bengal. Like I can understand that. Being a Bangladeshi, I can understand that. I can share the nostalgia. I can share the emotion. I still love to listen Lataji, or I still love to listen Kishore Kumar and Mannade. I love to listen great Shomaresh Mojumdar, but at the same, or Shishendu, but at the same time, I can understand when Bangladeshis wants to claim their differences from West Bengal. Now, if we have to understand the trajectories of partition or aftermaths of partition, how that has divided our minds, how it has created divided identities across the borders, we really have to understand and look into these differences. I think I've said it all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a wonderful lecture. It was a wonderful session, and we all enjoyed a lot. Now, let us come to the interactive, that is question and answer session. I would like to request the participants, if anybody has any question, they can ask the questions now, or they can also type the question in the chat box.
Yes, sir. I have a question. Hello.
Sure. Sure. Go ahead.
Hello.
Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
actually,
Please go ahead.
sir, yeah, you have where you have discussed the whole thing. You have referred to the West Bengal or Kolkata. Now there are Bengalis also in Tripura and Assam. So what about them? Actually, we are from Tripura, and we have our forefathers have come from S12 East Pakistan. So can you refer or can you mention why you have not referred to this the people the Bengalis of Tripura or Assam while discussing your thing?
Thank you, Dr. Prashanto, for identifying the blind spot. It's my handicap. I should admit, because I really haven't. This is not a research I have done. This is only an idea that has been that I am developing. These are some parts I'm taking from my previous research, but there are still parts that I have to develop. So I basically talk. You can see, like, even about Calcutta, I haven't said much. I have mostly drawn up the responses or the attitude or the self from the East Bengal or today's Bangladesh, Israel, East Bengal or today's Bangladesh. But I haven't talked much about that. If I have to say about them, I really have to do the research, whether I have to say about Calcutta, whether I have to say about Tripura or other parts of India where the like later generations from who originated from East Bengal are living there. For them, I really have to do the research. And until I do that, I cannot claim that what they do, what they say, what they think. It's just the assumption how partition define the others. And I was basically drawing up little I can see from the virtual spaces, little I can see from my experiences, that's all. So I haven't did an empirical research in Calcutta. I haven't did an empirical research in Tripura or Assam. So I cannot say details about them. I just can only draw some of the virtual exchanges that I can see. And other than that, most of my part, I actually drawn up the experiences of the Bangladeshi or attitude or experiences of the self-reflection of the Bangladeshi side. I think I made it clear, Mr. Prashant.
Okay, sir. One important thing I should add actually, for the last 10 to 15 years, we see that there is a very good cultural exchange between Tripura and Bangladesh. People from Bangladesh, they come here, they have some cultural programs, and also from Tripura also, people go to Bangladesh and they also share their cultural activity with them. So that is something which can be noted down.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I have discussed about the state-sponsored things in my previous research. I've discussed about it. I'm not against that. Actually, that may help, but often, like, you know, the border guards, BSF and BGP, they often celebrate Rakhi Bandhan. Rakhi Bandhan, you know, is a reflection of the amity and the friendship and affinity and these. When the border relation is really bitter, such kind of Rakhi Bandhan often appears to be like farce. So this is important. Like states, at a state level, we are celebrating. At a state level, we are celebrating our amity. But what is happening at the bottom? Like if we particularly look about the border relation of India and Bangladesh, what was like the 13-year-old girl, her name was Falani. She was shot dead at the border and she was hanging on the barbed wire. And apart from Shuman Chatterjee and Moushumi Bhomik, only handful of few of the cultural persona from the West Bengal, or only few of the few from the academy actually protested that issue. So there is this state level operation is different. Like you can have state ceremonies, you can have these celebrations, and people can find hope and aspiration in that. but the state realities are much deeper and harsher than we can see. So that I think required much more engagement, and we should understand. We shouldn't just accept the truth from the surface, but we should look into the ground, how people in the borderland, how people in the at the ground feel. Right? So this is important. I have said a lot about these things in my previous result, Mr. Prashant.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I'm also from Tripura. I'm Dr. Shapam Devnath. Actually, it may be little out of the track, but in newspapers in our country, particularly in our locals, as our Tripura is surrounded on three sides by Bangladesh, and we find Hindus are being attacked, and as if 1947 legacy and the 1971 legacy, particularly in 1971 legacy, is still continuing here in Bangladesh, attacking on the Hindus, and in the social medias we find that Hindu houses are being burned, broken down, and they are subjugated and they are oppressed. Such kind of video footages are coming. Now, as you were telling that you were researching on these social phenomenon and cross-border things, or Hindus, and my question is that what are the principal reasons behind the screen going on? What do you think that Hindus and Muslim over there, the Muslims are being, dominant. That is, Hindus are being oppressed over there, and physically they are tortured, and they are still bound to leave their country this or that. That's why I was telling, as if 1971 legacy, which West Pakistan implemented there, as if still it is going on behind the screen. What is your view about it?
Thank you, Dr. Shapam. Thank you. That's yeah. These are the bitter elements and bitter truths that we should actually engage with. This is the reality of Bangladesh. This is the reality of India. This is the reality of Pakistan. All the nation state actually dealing the others of the nation state in a very certain way. Like in Bangladesh, after 47, Hindus become the Hindus become the victim was in 1947. Like after partition, like they had gone through in the Pakistani regime, they had to face like unwanted consequences and harshness, and many had to migrate. All through the period of the Ayub Khan regime during the Pakistani era. So when after 1971 had taken place, there was this hope of the obvious there on the Hindus that Bangladesh, as it is claiming to be a secular country, will be a space where they could at least have a peace of mind and peace of their like peaceful life, at least. Like they would hope that it will not be act like Pakistan. Unfortunately, that hadn't really take place in Bangladesh. And it's the same, like you saying that you see from media that things are happening in Bangladesh toward the Hindus, and sitting in Bangladesh, I can see things are happening toward the Muslims in India. So this is the trajectory of the nation state. How and this is how partition is successful. Like you can say it venom of partition, but this is very calculated. That formation of the nation state in a particular way creates an exclusiveness of the as its character. Like this is our nation state. Like even in 71, the Bangladesh will be Bengalis nation state. Then where would be the other non-Bengalis? Like where will be the Biharis who came here to live? Where will be the Adivashis, or you say, as you say, use the term Upajati in India. We don't say Upajati, we say Adivasis. So what will be what will these Bengali nation state will do? What will be their policy toward the Adivashis? So there is this nation state's constant practice of othering the minorities. And it's been going on terribly in Bangladesh. It's been going on terribly in India. And we should acknowledge that, like in Bangladesh, the percentage of the Hindu population, non-Muslim population, had severely declined in the last decades after partition. Like now it's like even less than 10%. Previously, it was more than 20%. So this is terrible. And on the other hand, when people, for economic reason, when borderland people are crossing the border for like doing some manual work or something, like they have been caught up by the Indian border guards and like they have been thrown in the jail. And then the politicians keep saying that this is the Muslim infiltrators are coming from Bangladesh. Like, say, economic migrants immediately dubbed as the Muslim infiltrated. So this is the ploy the nation states constantly make. This is what Bangladesh do. This is what India do. And as an academician, as a researcher, our task is to identify and speak the truth to our heart, speak the truth in front of the others. This is important for us to identify. Thank you for spotting to that.
Thank you, sir. Actually, you were telling about the percentage of the Hindus and particularly below 10% in the Bangladesh. But on the contrary, as you are showing the reasons of nation countries and cards of partitions, as per my knowledge goes, in India, the percentage of Muslim, it is being increased. So if it happens in Bangladesh that Hindus are decreasing, and in India, Muslims are minorities, their rate is increasing. So my question is that whether it is the national mindset that Hindus must not be there in Bangladesh any longer. Is it so? That is my pinpointed question, actually. Thank you, sir.
I don't think I'm going to answer this question anymore because I think I have said it all. I don't want to identify that this is about particularly the policy of Bangladesh and this is particularly like India claimed as a secular nation state. What is India actually acting as a secular nation state today? So this is not this wouldn't be fair to put particular words into my mouth like this is the policy of Bangladesh. No, I can even see that I can live with I'm living with my Hindu friends in Bangladesh for many years happily, but I won't deny the bitterness is there. Bitterness underneath is there, and the bitterness is there in my country. The bitterness is also there in your country, and there's no way to deny that. You can bring up facts and statistics, but the reality is in no nation state, marginals are having a true citizen's life.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Anybody else? If anybody wants to ask something. So I think there are no more questions, and now I would like to introduce our chairman today, chairperson, Dr. Sabreen Ahmed. Dr. Sabreen Ahmed has received her PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Currently, she teaches in the Department of English, Nagaon College, Nagaon, Assam, as an assistant professor. Her recent edited book is entitled Interface, Language, Ecology, and Gender in Northeast India, and it is published in the year 2021. She has published an anthology of poems entitled Soliloquies and also writes short stories, articles, and book reviews for several webzines. We are very fortunate that today Dr. Sabreen Ahmed is with us. Ma'am, over to you.
Respected resource person of today's lecture, Sir Sayeed Ferdous, sir, organizers of iSPELL, our event coordinator, our master of ceremonies, and all the august participants here. Thank you for this honor. First of all, I would like to say that the partition of India and Pakistan in 1947 which marked the birth of two modern nation states and the end of British colonialism in South Asia, was indeed a partition of the minds. It was not just a partition drawn by the Red Cliff Line. Partition was the culmination of several years of political maneuvering, or a triangular game plan of the Indian National Congress, Muslim League, and the colonial government. The hardening of divisions between Hindus and Muslims was itself a result of the colonial policy of divide and rule. And as Sir has rightly pointed out in his lectures, that this game of unity sometimes looks like a farce, and indeed it is at some points. That yes, that those stained dawn of opening of two new nations, which was stained by the bloodshed in both the sides of the border, the partition self and the partition other, as Sir had rightly mentioned in his lecture, we are still carrying on with us. And people in Assam, especially the Muslims in Assam, they know it better because we have faced the NRC, and this is a part of the status policy. Well, I don't want to deliberate into that, because I am a student of literature, and we as students of literature, we look into the innocent gaps, the fissures, the absences that have not been looked into the statist policies or the bilateral relationships or the geopolitical ramifications that have been brought about by the partition of India and Pakistan, and later between Pakistan and Bangladesh in 1971. And literature looks into the human tragedy or the catastrophe that affected both the self and the other, be it the partition self, if it is from a Bangladeshi point of view, or be it the partitioned other, if it is from an Indian point of view. And Sir's lecture had rightly pointed out the angst or the harshness that this legacy of partition has carried in the divided minds in both sides of the border. But yet, there is hope in literature, there is hope in art, there is hope in music, as we have seen in his own lecture, that he still loves to listen to the songs of Manna Dey or Kishore Kumar or Lata Mangeshkar, as I love to read the novels of Tehmina Anam or Monica Ali. They are my favorites, because I have worked on them during my PhD. Well, that is a personal issue, but we also teach, Bangladeshi literature as a part of curriculum in several Indian universities. And, it is literature, it is music, which will carry forward this divided legacy, because this division has already been done. And if there has to be some adhesive, it has to be done through these creative arts. And I would just like to mention a few of the works in Bengali literature that also talk about this angst of partition. These are Onno Ghore Onno Swar by Akhtaruzzana Ilyas. It's a short story that is poignant enough to recreate or retell this divided legacy. Then we also have Bana Hangsher Desh. It's a story by Omar Mitra, which talks about illegal migration from Bangladesh to India. It's published in 1996. And there are many, in fact, and it needs a deeper research, because partition literature is mostly focused to Urdu or Punjabi writings or Hindi writings, but less to literature from Bengal or from East Bengal. And these things have to be taken up in these literary deliberations. And I thank Sir for his speech, for opening up different areas by opening up the idea of Bengaliness, which had been affected by this two-nation theory. And as our event coordinator had mentioned in the beginning, that partition is still a visible space in national imagination through the nostalgia. And this nostalgia has been dismantled, but it is for us, the students of literature, we have to look into the innocent gaps or the lines of unity that has to be carried on besides, besides everything, because what has to be done by the status policies. We can only look for hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much. That was really very informative. Now I would like to invite Dr. Ashok Sachdeva, Vice President iSPELL. Sir, please, sir, over to you, sir, to distribute the certificates.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Somali Madam, for giving this opportunity. It's a matter of great pleasure and pride that we are having this 87th lecture today. We are a little short of 100th lecture, and we are very soon going to complete our century. The lecture of Dr. Sayeed Ferdous was highly enlightening, very revealing, eye-opening, very critical, and very analytical. It has widened our horizons, and we could very well appreciate his perspective and point of view that he has presented. It was indeed very enlightening to listen to him, and I take the opportunity to distribute the certificates, and here the certificate goes to our main key speaker, Dr. Sayeed Ferdous from Bangladesh. He is a professor of anthropology, Jahangirnagar University, Bangladesh. Sir, we are highly beholden to have you with us here on the platform of iSPELL, and it was indeed wonderful listening to you, and it was an excellent deliberation. And you have touched upon a very different vistas of this partition and the topic that legacies of 1947 divided Bengals and partitioned minds. So we are really benefited, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful deliberation. The next certificate goes to chairperson. This certificate is proudly presented to Dr. Sabreen Ahmed, Assistant Professor of English, Nowgaon College, Nowgaon, Assam, for chairing the 87th East Sunday Sahityik Satsang on Legacies of 1947, Divided Bengals and Partition Minds. Really, madam, we are highly thankful to you and grateful to you for blessing us with your SAGE conference, giving your wonderful inputs, and you are very much right when you see that it was a mindset. It was the partition was there in the minds, and therefore people have undergone this kind of catastrophe, this kind of trauma, and it altogether demands a study from various perspectives, from psychoanalytical, from diaspora, from trauma studies. So the many perspectives open up with this partition literature. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabreen. And now we are very proudly, this certificate is proudly presented to Mosami Basfore, who is Assistant Professor of English, Government Degree College, Teliampura, Tripura, for the contribution as Master of Ceremonies in this 87th East Sunday Sahityik Satsang. You have really done a wonderful job today, coordinating, connecting, and also filling up the gaps. And with your presence, this program could be made successful, and you could coordinate the chairperson and the main key speaker and the audience and all of us together. You were the unifying link, and you have done your wonderful job, madam. Thank you so much. So iSPELL deserves equal amount of congratulations, having reached to this threshold. And event coordinator is also doing wonderful job.
Thank
Dr.
you very much.
And very soon, of course, I know it will be the last Sunday of this month when we'll be glad to give the certificate to you, madam, also, Dr. Somali Saha. And As an event coordinator, I think this month so far has gone so successful. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Somali.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to congratulate our speaker of the day, Dr. Sayeed Ferdous, Professor of Anthropology, Jahangirnagar University, Bangladesh, for such an interesting deliberation. So it was really eye-catching deliberation. It was very nice experience to listen to your talk, sir. Thank you so much. I want to thank the chairperson of today's session, Dr. Sabreen Ahmed, Assistant Professor of English, Nogam College, Assam, for the nice observation and concluding remarks. With very small words, ma'am, you have summed up the event very brilliantly, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm also thankful to Srimati Mushmi Baskur, the Master of Ceremonies of today's event, for sincerely comparing the session. Thank you so much, madam. I want to extend my thankfulness to Dr. Ashok Sachdeva, sir, Vice President of iSPELL India, for distributing the certificates as a token of love and appreciation. Thank you, sir. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Dr. Prashanta Chakraborty, sir, Vice President of iSPELL India, for meticulously designing all the events of the month of May. Thank you, sir. My sincere gratitude goes to Mr. Pramod Hengle, the IT coordinator of iSPELL India, without whose dedication and effort, the session would not be able to reach the unraised. Thank you so much, sir. My earnest gratitude also goes to Professor G.A. Ghansham, the General Secretary and Founder Director of iSPELL India, and Professor Anupama Vora, President of iSPELL India, for being for us the beacon of light of our inspiration. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. Lastly, I profusely thank all the amiable participants, all the attendees who are joining us through Zoom platform and YouTube live stream. Thank you all. With this, the 87 Sahitik Satsang, Sunday Sahitik Satsang ends here. Stay safe, stay